What's up, everybody? Before we get started today, I need to tell you that this video, this channel, as well as the Ketogenic Bodybuilding Podcast are sponsored by Manscaped, the world heavyweight freaking champion in men's grooming. Not only head to toe grooming, but below the waist grooming. And the good folks at Manscaped have given us an awesome deal to give to you guys. Help support the show, help support the channel. Go to manscaped.com, get yourself a pair of awesome trimmers that not only specially designed for man parts, but they're also phenomenal head to toe. I use them on practically every part of my body. You know, if you're involved in the fitness world and you want to keep showing off that definition that you've worked so hard for, Manscaped clippers get the job done quickly and efficiently. Sometimes they're so close that I don't even really have to use the razor. I can just trim up those parts, get my ass to work, and I'm good to go. So I use them literally nearly every day. And if you go to manscaped.com right now, pick out some phenomenal men's grooming products, and women use them too. Just put KGB20 in the coupon code box at checkout, and you're going to get 20% off your entire purchase and free shipping, which is always really, really cool. So manscaped.com. Thank you for supporting what we're doing here. Okay, onward. If you go to the previous video that I just did, I think it might have been yesterday or the day before, and I'll put a little link up there so you can check that out. I give my 33 weeks out progress report. So for me, I'm 33 weeks out from doing a competition in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's going to be on October the 22nd. That is an NPC national qualifier. And I think it's relevant to discuss, this contest prep, because a lot of the people that tune in to what I do on this channel know that I am a coach and I'm also a prep coach, and I'm deeply entrenched in that world. So I like to give a little bit of insight to what I do prepping for a competition, because a lot of it is going to apply to you people who train hard, diet hard, and have a particular goal in mind. Maybe it could be a summer goal. Maybe it could be an event that you have coming up. Maybe it's just a personal goal, photo shoot. You're, doing a physique competition yourself, whatever the case may be. The types of people that watch this channel are goal oriented. They train, they don't just exercise. There's a huge difference between the two. So giving my insight as to what I do, and basically, if you're listening to what I do a very similar, if not almost exact version of it to my clients who are also trying to accomplish the same thing. I just alter the numbers and change a few things that are based around their unique goals, their gender, their training time, their genetics. All these things, have to be taken into account. So for me, at 33 weeks out, I kind of gave a quick rundown in the previous video of the things that I'm doing right now. Now, I don't get serious. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm serious right now. At 8 months out, I get really serious. I clean things up. I start getting hyper-focused on what I'm doing. My training has to be on point. My nutrition has to be on point. My sleep and recovery has to be on point. I can't skip, my supplementation. I can't relax on any of this stuff. The thing about bodybuilding, and those of you who are really into being, hardcore fitness enthusiasts and practitioners, is, there really isn't any time off. You always got to be doing your best if you want to become your best. So at 33 weeks out, the way I look at it on my calendar, and I discussed this in the previous video, is from basically 8 months out. I'm at 33 weeks out now. I'm going to kind of be doing roughly the same thing, give or take a few minor tweaks and adjustments, all the way until I get to 24 weeks out. At 24 weeks out, I make some pretty serious adjustments, and I start getting into a cut mindset at 24 weeks out. And then, long story short, by the time we whittle down to 12 weeks, then it gets to all hands on deck, super serious, balls out, no holds barred, suffer mode. But for right now, at 33 weeks out, I'm really, really hyper-focused on my physique, recomping any, muscularity that I may have, that may have diminished in the off season, letting that muscle memory kick in. And you do that by feeding the muscles and obviously training the muscles properly. So I did get a question by one of our followers, subscribers, and he wanted to know. So when I talked about my macros right now for this stage, I'm sort of in this, gain phase, which is a slight caloric surplus. So I'm, just hovering right around maintenance calories to slight caloric surplus, which is somewhere around, right around 3,000 calories a day for me. Inevitably, you will lose some muscle during that time. That's why we want to pay so much attention to building and maintaining as much as we possibly can before we get to that, 12 to 14 weeks of hardcore cutting, so that when we do, unfortunately, lose a bit of that, it's not going to be enough to be detrimental to our progress, results, how we look, and all that kind of stuff. So, you got to go through the very, very hard work of building and maintaining as much as you possibly can. So by doing that, the best method that I have ever seen, and any bodybuilder or physique competitor will tell you this, is frequently ingesting amino acids and protein throughout the day, every 2 to 4 hours. You want to lift as heavy and intense as you possibly can to help maintain that muscle mass. And then you want to get as much sleep and recovery and rest as you possibly can to help grow, repair tissue, and also let the body hang on and recuperate and, drop those cortisol levels and hang on to that precious muscle. So that's kind of the formula for that. So, after I determined my TDEE and I determined my grams of protein, which is around around 330 grams of protein throughout the day, that roughly makes up about 46% of my caloric intake. Now, carbohydrates right now, I have set between roughly around 75 grams a day. Now, as you know, I am a big advocate of consuming fast absorbing carbohydrates right around my workout window. So the period of time, 30 minutes prior to my workout and maybe even intra workout, and on some days, like maybe a super strenuous leg day or a super big back day, I might take in an additional 10 or 20 grams even post workout. So of that 75 grams that I'm allowing myself right now, I may take in 40 of that around that workout window. So 35 grams or so are left that I have allocated to me that, I can take in through. There's a couple grams if I, within a scoop of protein powder that I use. It could, cover any green vegetables that I use throughout the day. It could cover any of that, those carbohydrate grams that sneak in, whatever it may be in a tablespoon of almond butter that I may consume or whatever. So that 35 grams is roughly my daily consumption sprinkled throughout the day in those 6 meals, with, around 35 to 40 grams that I take in around that workout window to fuel muscular contractions and spare protein to let it do its job. So, there roughly 75 or so grams of carbs throughout the day, sometimes a little more on leg day, maybe a little more on back day, but I'm right in that area. And that only still represents about 10% of my total caloric intake for the day. And when I get into a cut phase, it's going to drop to about 7%. Now, my fat intake is roughly representing about 44%, the remaining 44% of my caloric intake at about 140 to 143 grams of fat per day, which is about 23, 24 grams a meal, I think. I don't have the numbers in front of me. So it's a decent amount of fat, but that's also easy to bring in if you have some, fattier cuts of meat. If you're eating a ribeye a day or maybe some 90% ground beef, the egg yolks that I take in throughout the day, a little bit of almond butter I might have throughout the day. And then I do 2 tablespoons of MCT oil throughout the day as well, because it's fast absorbing, fast burning fat that's going to be absorbed into the mitochondria of the muscle, and it's not going to be stored on my body. So it's another safe burning caloric supplement that I can use to help, get that 3,000 calories a day that somebody my size needs. I'm hovering around 226, 227 pounds right now when I wake up in the morning. So hence the 3,000 calories, those higher protein numbers and those higher fat numbers. So at the end of the day, of that roughly 3,000 calories, I'm getting about 330 grams of protein, roughly 75 to 100 grams of carbs. The big whack of that around my workout window with fast absorbing carbohydrates like cream of rice, rice cakes and honey, or like a cyclic dextrin supplement powder. And then about 140 to 143 grams of fats, which most of it is naturally occurring in the meats that I eat, the egg yolks from the eggs that I eat, the MCT oil that I consume in my shakes, and maybe some healthy olive oil, macadamia nut oil throughout the day as well. So that is how I build my macros. I build it around my total daily energy expenditure calculation. And then the thing is if you've never done this before, if you're not, tracking every meal and tracking every gram and really calculating everything, if you don't know your body super well, you may have to make some adjustments with this. And a lot of the adjustments come from the visual element of this. Some of my clients who haven't been living in this world, it freaks them out a little bit when I let them know on the outset when they become a client that, we're going to be taking progress photos. It may be once a month at first, and then if you're getting closer to a goal, it might be once a week. For my competitors, it's definitely going to be once a week when we're a couple weeks out or a few weeks out from competition. So I can look at myself in the mirror. I can take a photograph of myself, first thing in the morning on an empty stomach after I've went potty and after I've weighed, and I can tell, is this macros intake that I'm consuming, is this division of macros that I'm consuming, is it working in my favor at this point? As long as I'm maintaining abdominal definition, I'm seeing that muscle fullness come in, I'm seeing that symmetry and that shape maintained, then I know I'm on the right track. And then, as I, from 24 weeks out on down to, stage day, you're going to see, the body really sort of taking shape slowly and systematically as we go down, as we count down the weeks moving towards that. Obviously, you're going to hit those little plateau weeks here and there. That's completely normal, but you can always kind of tell just based on performance, how you feel, how you look in the mirror, how those progress photos look, if you're moving in the right direction. So you may set your TDEE and you may set yourself to be in a slight caloric deficit. You may divide those meals up into 5-6 meals a day. You are fairly convinced you're training your ass off, but it's not quite working the way that you thought it should. Then, maybe the TDEE is a little off. So maybe try dropping your caloric intake each day by 100 or 200 calories, readjust that division of macros accordingly for that 200 to 300 calorie drop. I still like to keep that 40, 50 some percent protein, low 40s to mid 40s in fat. And then that carbohydrate around, 7 to 10% of my intake, allocating some of that for that workout window. So, and then as I get closer to, as I get into that hard cut and get closer and closer to showtime, that fat percentage is going to come down. So it's going to go from, like right now, it's around 44% of my daily caloric intake. That's going to drop, it's going to be on a steady decline, especially from that 24 weeks out down. And it may get down into the, 30% range, where I may get down to, 60, 70 grams of fat. And there may be little points throughout the final weeks of prep where it gets even lower than that. And I do some tricks and manipulations with my carbohydrate, with my fat, with my protein, all the little tweaks that you do to systematically keep moving you forward to looking the best you possibly can on that show day. So that's how I do it. I hope that may have given you a little further insight to what I'd mentioned in the previous 33 weeks out update video. So again, you figure that TDEE, calculators are out there. I set my division of macros to where my protein is my highest. That's the priority macronutrient is the protein. The second priority for me is going to be carbohydrate, and the third priority, but very, very important, is the carbohydrates that I bring in for the micronutrients throughout the day from maybe a little bit of vegetable matter, but even more importantly, the carbohydrates I take in around that workout window for performance during that time to get the most out of my training. Because if you're not getting the most out of your training, you're not going to synergistically build the physique that you have in your mind that you want to show to the world on whatever your goal day is, or that beach trip or vacation or wedding or family reunion or standing on stage in front of 1,000 people. So that's how I do that. And I'll be giving more insight and details as we do these videos. And, as those numbers drop and as I make adjustments, I'll let you know what those are, and you can kind of see how I do it. And then that'll give you further insight to how you might do it for your own goals and your own pursuits with your aesthetically driven, physique goals that you have in mind right now. So hopefully that cleared some things up, and hopefully that's some good insight for you. So The last thing I want to say, and I'll keep reminding you of this, none of this shit is going to work if you don't stay on task. We talked about dividing macros today. We talked about setting a caloric ceiling. You have to track. Now, if you exercise, you might be able to get away with, not tracking, and because you just exercise. You're just trying to be a little healthier. It's a little bit about longevity, and that's about it. If you're training, you have a hard focused goal. You're a different person. You're the freak in the room. You're an animal. You have a systematic plan put in place to deliver you to a goal, a hard goal that you're passionate about, that you're dedicated to, and nothing will let you deviate from that course. So if you're training, then you need to track those nutrients. You need to track your meals. You need to track your calories, your macros, everything you put in your mouth. Track your freaking water, track your supplementation. I take a lot of supplements throughout the day. So I literally have, phases of my supplementation. I take this group of supplements at, 5 a.m. with my protein shake. Then I take this group of supplements pre-workout. Then I take this group of supplements post-workout. And then I take this group of supplements before bed. And that's how I divide it out. And I have a plan for that. So you got to have a plan, then you got to execute it. And then if you're training your ass off and you're dieting perfectly, and you're not placing huge premium on sleep and recovery, quality sleep and recovery, you're shortchanging yourself, and it's never going to work the way you want it to. If you don't look at recovery as, if you look at the components of success, training, nutrition, recovery is right up in there and just as important as everything else. So, I've known clients, I've known friends, I've known, people that I bump into at the gym that'll train their ass off, but then maybe not be 100% on their macros. And then they're, staying up till 1 a.m. playing video games or on freaking TikTok and not putting a premium on sleep. My ass is in bed no matter what. So I know that whatever time I have to get up the next day, I'm going to allocate 8 or 9 hours of sleep for myself for recovery, because it's even more important at my age. So, if you're over 35, it's even more important. If you're under 35 and have major physique goals in mind, you better get used to sleep as being a huge part of your program. So, all right, that's enough. I've taken enough of your time today. Again, subscribe. Tell a friend, go to manscaped.com if you want to support the podcast, support the YouTube channel, buy a cool product, enter KGB20 at checkout, get 20% off and free shipping. I'm going to go train here in about an hour, so I got to do that phase of supplements and get a little bit of fast burning carbs in my body to get ready for another hard ass workout. So anyway, train hard, diet harder, but above all, have a great freaking day. See ya.